Listen up. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast belong solely to the podcast participants, and not to any participant's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. You know, for fun. So lighten up and enjoy. Now, Stomping Jen, hello.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Always a pleasure.
Do you know who is on the show this week?
Do I know who's on this show?
Yes.
You and me.
Yes, but we also have a guest.
Oh, we do?
Yes.
Excellent.
Freddy Lopez, who is also known as Freddy Logic.
Okay.
We are going to talk to him about many a thing.
Many things.
Yes. He is many things.
He is many things.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're going to talk to him right after the intro music.
Sounds great.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, let's go. The Soft Serve Podcast. Creamy, delicious ideas without the creepy truck. Stomping Jen, I'm
like,
singing again.
I thought maybe we'd get away.
Never! How are you
without
doing?
the singing. Oh my God.
Are you doing well?
I'm doing fine.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me turn this down and we will say hello to our guest this week, Freddy Lopez. Hi, Freddy.
Hello. How's everybody doing? How you guys doing?
We're doing good. Thank you for joining us. Now, I tend not to do a very good job introducing our guests, so I want to give you an opportunity just to tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, anything you want to share as we get going here.
Okay. If I have to put myself in a box, I'm going to start with the real estate box. I'm a real estate broker in Massachusetts and Connecticut. Been a real estate broker. Been in real estate for 20 years now in August. I'll be licensed in real estate. So my main frame of work is real estate, community involved, get involved in a lot of things, just trying to make the world a better place overall. But entrepreneur, I get involved in different ventures, financial ventures, and a lot of community work. So overall, I would just say I'm a hardworking individual.
Yeah, and I can tell that from your Instagram profile, which I follow, called I Am Freddy Logic. I've been following this for a while, and I know it's a private account, so not everybody's going to be able to see this, but if they're lucky enough to get into it, here's what I want to say. I love this Instagram profile.
What do you love about it?
Freddy posts these really interesting bits of advice, and then pictures from his life and his grinding out there and his work. And it's entertaining, and I enjoy it when I see a post from I Am Freddy Logic.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. So
That's good. I've never heard anybody say anything or describe my Instagram page. My Instagram page is my personality page. So what I mean by that is it's just random thoughts that just pop in. There's no rhyme or reason to what I do. I just figure things that kind of like catch my attention, I share them and, kind of take a little credit for them when they're not my original thoughts, but just things that are going around. And I just say, this is interesting, and it kind of wow people with some of the shock factors sometimes,
Yeah, where do you find the stuff that you post? Are you just out there, stuff that you encounter as you're going through the social media websites?
It is, there's a focus to it. So you end up following people with a certain focus, certain agenda, certain type of mindset, certain type of direction. And then what happens is you become like-minded with these thoughts and energies and, directions and paths, and you start sharing them. And it's not something that, it's not things that people on an everyday basis think of, or, it's just, it's kind of like a wow factor. aha moments, epiphanies and things that really blow my mind. So I just share them.
Yeah, I mean, I love these. Like, here's one that just caught my eye, right? It's good morning. Don't forget to drink your water and mind your fucking business. I love that.
Right,
that one I'll see something like that. And then I'll see something, like this one, everything in time. I love that.
Right.
Like, I never know what I'm going to get out of your Instagram, which is what I love about it.
Yeah. You know what it is? I'm fluid with it. I don't try to predict tomorrow, and I kind of don't try to analyze yesterday too much either. It's kind of like living in the moment, riding the waves and just seeing where the universe takes me, and, kind of like, I don't know. It's just really being focused on the energy of life and just focused on the everyday. Okay, well, today, what does it bring? And kind of trying to give meaning to everything. Sometimes you don't find it. Sometimes you do. Sometimes the puzzle pieces connect. Sometimes they don't. But overall, just trying to find rhyme and reason to what I call a life bid, which is being a human,
Yeah. And this one got me thinking that I saw the other day. Real strength is never turning into the monster they make you out to be.
Right. It's basically, what I meant by that is, they try to box you in and try to predict who you are and try to kind of like label you. For example, I don't really wear suits, but, I'm on different boards and, I'm a commercial real estate broker, residential real estate broker. I get involved in, different aspects of the community, et cetera. But when you see me, unless you talk to me, you might not think that's me, who is the one on, let's say, the agenda, who's going to be giving a discussion, or, the person who's the team leader, or, on this board or that board, or the decision maker. I mean, I don't fit the everyday mold of, let's say, of uptight professional.
So you defy the perception of traditional businessman, right?
Right. I don't really defy it. I think it's I don't think it's necessary. In my younger day, I used to think it was very necessary. Yeah. So I did it as well.
Yeah.
I used to get dressed up every day. Yeah. I never learned how to be stuffy. The problem is that no matter how I dress, the way I talk is the exact same way in every room.
Yeah.
So either way, they were like, yeah, the suit doesn't fool us. So I just stopped wearing them.
Yeah. And did you gravitate to that kind of naturally through your work out there in the business world? Or did you wake up one day and say, you know what, this isn't authentic. This isn't me. I don't want to do this. Or did it just kind of happen slowly?
I think what happened is, now I'm a little older now, but I see the next generation. They'll look at, I come from humble beginnings. I come from an urban setting. I've been in Springfield since I was 3 months old. Been through a lot of different things, a lot of different settings. And I just felt like the individuals coming up after us, the next generation, they didn't really have too many people to identify with. And for me to kind of portray, being uncomfortable all of the time and that was success, simulation, basically. I don't really believe simulation is success. And that kind of goes back to like Native Americans being oppressed and having to go through simulation camps and trying to become, more, let's say, pilgrimized at the time.
Right.
But, I kind of felt like I don't think success should be defined by being uncomfortable in front of other people. I think that kind of bothered me that we define that as success, when, I think it's a little oppressive. I think it's kind of, it's not something we can really keep up with. So I kind of like, don't try to,
Yeah. I love that.
I had an aha moment myself at some point.
What was it?
No, came a point where I was like you, Freddie, like I was dressing up, I was uncomfortable, I wasn't staying true to who I was. And at some point I just made a realization. I'm like, fuck it. If you don't like the way I look, like more, if that bothers you and you don't want my services, then you're not somebody I want to work with.
I want your services.
Well, oh boy. I don't have any notes for that.
No, I hear you, Stomping Jen. You know, Freddie, the other day I was as we start to commingle with people again, right? I saw somebody I hadn't seen in a while, and they said to me, "Oh, I like your pandemic beard." I was like, "Motherfucker!" I said, "I have had this beard for a long time. This isn't a pandemic beard. I haven't been locked in my house going crazy, not able to get razors. This is how I look. This is my beard. It's some Grizzly Adams shit.
Choice.
Right, yeah. It's some Grizzly Adams shit. I'll grant you that, but this is how I'm choosing to look. I still do my job. I can show up here and be amongst people.
What you put on your body or how you want to do your hair or whatever.
Fucking appearances. I don't like them.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing is what I realized is the higher up the totem pole, the less they got dressed up, you know. So the guys who are really in charge show up in the sweats, and the other guys who work for them show up in the suits, you know. That's
privilege.
Yeah, and exactly.
Exercising that privilege. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason I read that one quote about real strength is never turning into the monster they made you out to be, it made me think about the day I met you, actually, which we went through this kind of leadership thing together a few years ago. It's based out of the Springfield area,
Massachusetts.
Yeah, Springfield, Massachusetts. Right. Thank you, Stomping Jen. And I remember seeing you there at this kind of like social mixer type of thing, and remember saying, okay, this individual has some presence. He's interesting. You know, he's talking to a bunch of people. So, anyways, I went over. I started talking to you, and I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, I remember you sharing with me that at the time you were doing some work with men around anger management.
Right.
And I think it was incarcerated men?
Correct.
Specifically?
Correct. It was a program called the Alternatives to Violence Project, right? And what it is, it's a program in which it was founded by the Quaker organization, and which is sort of a religious organization. I don't know if you guys know what the Quaker organization is.
Yeah.
But which they believe that at no time, under any circumstance, is there a reason for violence? Is there an excuse for violence? Which is completely opposite of, let's say, what you're taught, you know, as a youth growing up. You know, you have to defend yourself. There's always this, there's always that. A lot of violence surrounding, let's say, urban communities across America, pretty much, actually across the world. So what happened is I kind of bumped into this program. My mother was sitting in, one of my meetings was canceled. So they had some snacks. So I sat down, I started listening, and I started eating the snacks, and like, oh, wow, you know, and I had a bunch of aha moments back to back to back to back to back. And I'm just like, wow, how come they're not teaching this to the kids? And how come? And then all of a sudden I'm in the conversation, and then all of a sudden I'm leading the conversation, and all of a sudden I'm volunteering, and all of a sudden I'm in the jail, you know, spending 3 days in county jail in the pre-release program, talking to individuals incarcerated for violent offenses, and kind of like I'm teaching them how to hone in on expressing their emotions versus lashing out, and understanding commonalities between people that they would think they have no common ground with, and really understanding that, you know, the strength and the ability to express yourself versus lash out, and the consequences, cause and effect, and, you know, a bunch of different things that really helped me kind of gain a different focus. It allowed me to communicate a lot better. It was kind of like a gift that I received, and I just wanted to share it with the entire world. So I kind of got immersed into that program. It's a program that existed in 33 states at the time and 45 countries.
Wow.
And it reduced recidivism. Recidivism is when you return to jail after being released. So reduce recidivism from 60 to 80%.
Damn.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that like? Kind of stepping into that setting. Did that give you any particular insight into life? Just going into the jail like that?
Honestly, I didn't think when I first started volunteering, I just didn't think they would accept me because what you see is what you get with me. Even if I try to tone it down, I don't know how, kind of. So I walk in there, I got some shades and, I'm dressed a certain way, a little loud, et cetera, et cetera. And they're all, of course, in their resident, we use the term resident, in their resident uniform. And I'm thinking, wow, these guys are going to look at me like I must think I'm privileged. I must think they must think I think I'm better than them because I have my freedom. I'm in here voluntarily where they actually don't have the option to leave at that point. And then I'm sitting in the mess hall with them. I'm eating the food with them. And I'm just thinking, I'm just thinking, this doesn't look right. Someone's going to have a problem with this, et cetera. But it was completely the opposite of that. They really embraced me. They embraced what we were bringing to the table. They really embraced the knowledge. And, it was very rewarding. And what it did for me, when you asked, what it did for me.
Yeah.
So I would bring in donuts and coffee, and the look on someone's face, the joy that they could get off of a cup of coffee and a jelly donut from Dunkin' Donuts was just enough for me to understand that, freedom and liberty is really priceless.
Yeah.
And things that we kind of take for granted. So I did it a lot of times to keep me focused on always making positive choices and being able to bring more positivity around me,
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps twice stomping Jen, hearing Freddy talk about that. This might be the earliest in the podcast I've gotten goosebumps. So yeah. So
goosebumps are good. Goosebumps are good.
Yeah. So
early goosebumps.
Yeah. So is that program still happening?
So the way that it works is we were doing it and it was a lot of volunteers. I was one of the ones spearheading it, but there was a lot of volunteers involved. We ended up training about 2,200 people in this program. It's a 3-day program with a 3-day follow-up. And then to become a trainer, there's another 3 days. So we ended up training about 2,200 people based off of just donations. There was no formal organization. And we just did it for free. So it took a lot of my time and energy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, at the time, I wasn't savvy enough to build a nonprofit organization around it to be able to fund the project and continue its efforts. So I had to focus on paying my bills. And I wasn't able to really, give 100% of myself to it due to financial responsibilities, that just life brings to you on a daily basis. So it kind of like it took a back seat, but it's the passion is there, and ultimately, it's a focus I'd like to get back to at some point.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for doing that. For any amount of time. I think that's important work. I think we often, I don't mean we, trying to count how many of us. There are 3, right? I don't think we, the 3 of us.
1, 2, 3.
I don't mean us, but I think as a society, we try to forget about people who have been incarcerated, right? Lock them away and not think about them. And I think
outcast them, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so important about that work you were doing. So yeah,
I think the difference is, you have to understand, and it's kind of like it's a little shocking to hear sometimes, when we make statements like this, but like, growing up in certain environments, it's kind of inevitable that, you will come across law enforcement issues, come across, different situations that you might not come across in other environments. And, you're thrown into these environments without any formal training or, understanding of right from wrong or, lack of guidance. And, I think it's important that those of us that do learn ways to avoid conflict and, not get caught up in situations that we probably wouldn't want to be involved in. I think it's important that we share that knowledge,
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things when we were kind of corresponding back and forth about what we wanted to talk about tonight that you indicated was something you wanted to discuss was this idea of the social climate, and you might have some thoughts about that right now.
Okay, go ahead, share.
Yeah. Do you and I'm curious how you might assess our social climate right now? Like what is happening around us? What are we seeing?
I think it's a process that I think it's been a long time coming. I think it's self-identification, which is even though there's a collective social realm that we all live in and we all coincide with each other, et cetera. But I think it's coming back down to understanding yourself as an individual, as a human being, your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, your identity, exactly what you identify as, what you want to be perceived as, and kind of controlling the narrative of who you are versus I think we're getting out of the era where everybody was telling you who you were and who you weren't and what you could do and what you can't do. I've been trying to defy that for a long time, but successfully, I don't know. I'm just me, but I think people are more okay with just being who they are truly, where before, people would say, hey, I'm this, I'm that publicly, but then they turn around and they're really not that person and they're just pretending to be. Where I think people are more available to self-identify now and say, I don't, just because I belong, let's say, to this political party doesn't mean I subscribe to this particular thought or this particular agenda. As you see in the political world right now, you see people on both sides saying, yeah, but I don't totally agree with my side of politics. And I think that's kind of like what we're moving towards.
Yeah. And do you think social media is a overwhelmingly positive or negative force? Like, do you have any thoughts on that? For me, it's like, I think it's a mixed bag, right? Like for like a lot of the reasons you were saying, Freddie, like social media allows me to create the narrative of like who I want to be, who I'm aspiring to be, who I think I am now, right? It allows me that power too, but I also see a lot of negativity in social media, and it's like easy to attack people like through social media, right? And call somebody an asshole through a tweet, right? And if you were standing in front of that person, like you would never say something like that to them in person. Right. Yeah. So I'm curious if you have thoughts about that.
I would say that it's a balance of both. I believe that those that might not have the confidence to be able to express their thoughts in person, they get the platform to blurt out, no matter how nervous they are when they hit that send button, to blurt out an idea that's in their head that they normally wouldn't share in a room full of people who like to always speak or direct the conversation. So I believe that for those people, it does give them a platform to be able to express themselves and be part of a conversation that they normally wouldn't be. But then I also believe that for those who understand how to manipulate the system and manipulate the narrative, it does allow for negativity and a storyline to be followed that normally wouldn't be followed. I think they can cause a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, depression. I mean, if we read something, regarding, some war going on, a million miles away, we automatically might jump into some anxious thoughts saying, oh, that could happen here. Oh my God. And what's going on? And, so I think it's a balance of it all. I think it affects everybody a little bit differently. Overall, though, I do think that social media was necessary because I think a lot of people are finding common ground with other people that normally wouldn't have found common ground. And I think that if used correctly, I mean, it can change the entire world. It has. I mean, it selected presidents, you know?
Yeah. I agree with that last part you said. When it's, when it's deployed correctly or thoughtfully, it has the capacity to change the world. And I like, when I think about it and I reflect on it, I think the vast amount of interactions I've had around it are positive.
Social media.
Yeah. But I also try to be mindful of that too.
Yeah.
But early on I had my moments, like when I was first, and it's like a process. You have to learn how to use it. Like when Facebook first started, like I remember, I don't know, I said nasty things to people.
You did?
Yeah. I think I did.
Did you?
Yeah, but I learned and I grew and I decided, you know what? I'm not feeling good about this. This is terrible.
You never say nasty things any longer?
Not in writing.
I
do.
Is that true?
Do I?
I think you are snarky.
Oh, well, that's different though. I'm trying to be funny. Right?
Trying to be funny.
Yeah.
But your funny might not be funny to someone else.
Yes.
Which I've learned at times.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. So I've taught this podcast workshop many times, right? In my kind of my other life. And one of the biggest points of advice I give people is don't try to be funny. If you're not, because I always.
That is the most ironic piece of advice I've ever heard.
But I'm not trying to be funny.
Oh, you just think you're naturally funny? Is that what's
no,
going
I'm just
on
being
here?
myself, Stomping Jim.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
You want to say more about that?
About what?
Yes, please.
You've knocked me off. You've knocked me off kilter.
I know. That's why it's funny.
Right. Thanks. Yeah. And so I'm going to come over there and I'm going to jump across his table.
Freddy, you should see the look he's giving me.
If this were a tweet exchange, you wouldn't be doing this to me. Yeah.
Come on, it's funny.
No, it is. And you know what? I think like this, for example, like I wish we could be in person talking, right? Because I just like, I feel like nothing beats connecting in person.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
For sure. Am I right about that, Stomping Jim?
Yes, and.
Finish it. And what?
No, yes, and the convenience of being able to, be on a computer in your own home and not have to travel and not have to inconvenience, everybody by commuting and driving and
that's a bonus.
It's a bonus, but the trade-off is right. You're not in person. You're not hanging out.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's pros and cons.
Yeah.
To everything in life, I think.
Mm-hmm. But people need to talk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think has been swirling around in this social climate that we all need to talk about more and keep talking about is race and racism, right?
Correct.
And, I've said before to people we've talked to on this show before is like, nobody ever taught me how to talk about race and racism, right? As a white guy who grew up in a like 98% white community, right. The first people I met who didn't look like me were when I was like 18 and thrown into the army. And I was like, wow, there are lots of different people out there with different perspectives and come from different cultures and, don't see the world the way I do. And I've told this story before, Freddie. Like I was, it's when I was in Korea and I was at a magazine rack looking at magazines in our kind of like bookstore. And I had been assigned to go away for a month on this field exercise with a bunch of people. And I noticed one of the guys was standing next to me. He was this black gentleman from Jamaica. And we kind of looked at each other and was like, hey, and he comes over to me. He goes, I got to tell you something. I said, what? He goes, I have never known any white people before, and I'm afraid of you all.
Right.
And that kind of was the first major perspective reset for me in my life. I was like, well, what do you mean you would be afraid of white people? And he's like, sit down and let me talk to you, friend. But it started this really great friendship.
Yeah.
And so, but, like, again, as a white guy who grew up in a primarily white community, like no one had ever taught racism in an authentic way to me in school. And just, I was so clueless. So, like, why the hell don't we teach people in an authentic way about racism and how to talk about race and racism?
Direct answer.
Yeah, please.
Is going to be because we haven't figured out how to. I think overall, the conversation, some people might think that in order to, let's say, be able to relate and really identify with others that are not of your race, that you have to minimize your pride in yourself and your race. And I think, finding that balance between being proud of who you are without shaming someone because they're not like you, that balance in between is hard to get to because of the fact of, like you said, when the gentleman said, sit down for me, let me explain, I have a different experience where I actually, I came from Puerto Rico when I was 3 months old. And then when I was about 6 years old, I moved into a 98% Black community, in which I was actually, I didn't, although there are a lot of similarities, there are a lot of differences as well. And that took a while for me to assimilate to being accepted in that world as well. And I think it comes from, historically, if you look back in history, I mean, communities were built based on people that looked like you, talked like you, walked like you, even shared the same religious views as you, even to the point of the way you went to church, the way you dressed, the way when you start getting into major cities being developed and you have all of these different cultures coming to one place, and then they say you're all the same. I think we don't embrace our differences enough,
Right.
to say, this is your culture and wow, that's beautiful. That's amazing. And let me share a little bit of my culture instead of it's more of let's create this American culture, which is really just a lot of different beautiful cultures coming together and coexisting. And I think that I don't think we share our the beauty in our differences as much as we should, and we try to change people and make them assimilate to us or try to relate to them based on what we think and what we see and how we feel. But we don't embrace our differences enough,
Yeah, I like that. And I think that's why when people say stuff like, oh, well, I don't see race, right? Well, no, you should see people's differences and try to get to appreciate them and
correct.
And, engage with them around who they believe themselves to be and what they represent. And I'm grateful for the fact that I traveled out of that area I was in and didn't stay there, because I got that early lesson in my life. I was 18, and I mean, thankfully, I wish it had come sooner, but still, I think that was an important lesson, Stomping Jen.
Was it?
It was for me, for sure.
Stomping Jen, did you ever go into like a shock of differences of culture?
Yeah. So I grew up in New Jersey in a predominantly Jewish Italian type of environment, right? So like everybody that I knew was either like, they came from
Jewish
New
or
York.
Italian.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an hour from New York City. It was the suburbs. It was, the early 80s where people were, commuting out of the city and moving into these suburbs. So going to school up in Massachusetts and then New England, the really like, waspy Protestanty, like, environment, the Pioneer Valley is not quite like that. But, where we live here in Belchertown, there's not a lot of Jews. Basically, when I told my family we were going to settle and, stake our claim here in Massachusetts, my parents like looked at me and they were like, why? They were like, there are no Jews that live here, and I was like, well, there's Jews that live here, there's synagogues here, there, and not so close, but yeah, but so it, for most of those reasons, it's pretty different than where I grew up.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question though.
Yeah.
So let's say you move into a community of non-Jews, and there's not many Jews around.
Right.
Were you treated differently because of that?
Well,
I mean, yes, Freddie, like we were at the house I grew up in with my grandmother, right? This is a horrible story, but it's absolutely true. We were talking about buying something, and my grandmother, without, at this point, she was in her mid 80s, maybe approaching 90, but, she's like, oh, don't worry, you'll be able to Jew them down. And we're like,
right.
What?
Right.
But
she wasn't even thinking about it.
She wasn't, but that's part of the problem,
right, it's part
too.
Of the problem.
Right? Because she knew you were Jewish, right?
You can't even say the word, can you?
I can, but I'm just horrified that I had a racist grandmother.
I mean, it's more like people are oblivious and they don't think about it. Like, I'm on the select board. If there's a Jewish this is the thing that really pisses me off. So like in New Jersey area, you get all the Jewish holidays off basically in the school system, right? And so my kids, I'm always like, no, I'm going to pull them out for the Jewish holidays. And 9 times out of 10, they don't put it as an excused absence and I have to go and I have to complain, like, no, it's, a religious holiday,
Right.
My kids are not going to school, they're going to go to synagogue or whatever, but yeah, so things like that are always like kind of, just the obliviousness of it, like, oh, we're just going to have this meeting and, they don't realize, because why would they? It's not part of the quote unquote norm. So,
yeah. And I do travel to like Latin America. I go to the Dominican Republic. I go to Colombia. I go to Puerto Rico. And it's a little different when it's like everybody's Latin, everybody's Spanish speaking, everybody's culture is, similar. I'm sure if you go to Italy or you go to Ireland or, everybody shares the same type of culture, the same, they walk, talk, act the same, I guess comparing the way those worlds function in comparison to how America functions not on culture, not on, it really functions based on capitalism at the end of the day, and how it works, where these other countries, the capitalist approach or the socialist approach or whatever it is, it's based on an effect of the culture versus here, the culture is an effect of, the way society is ran, and we all cater to this capitalistic society. I was listening to the podcast where you guys said you had to talk to a financial advisor, even though et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's like, we have to get set up for retirement. We have to do this. We have to do that.
Right.
We have to do this. Whereas in Latin American cultures, like, we have to catch that sunset. We have to catch that wave. We have to go taste that food. We'll worry about that retirement stuff later. We'll worry about this. We'll worry about that.
Right.
So, it really shapes the way that we as a society kind of function in the culture that it creates, where, lately I with the whole, let's say, the president that we just had, Trump,
Yeah.
You know, he comes from, let's say, a background where he was brought up to think a certain way and not look at a certain group of people, you know, with let's say the same level of respect he would look at his own people. And I'm not going to say any particular group of people, but let's say, you know, they're very proud to be who they are. So in America, the only thing is that, you know, in politics, which basically runs the whole economy and everything else in this country, it's based on ideologies of groups that got here first and then who got here after. And if you follow the history of America and, you know, all of the different groups, like if you read an article of Irishmen in the 1800s, and then you compare it to, let's say, just because I'm Puerto Rican, I'm going to use the Puerto Ricans. And then you read an article on Puerto Ricans today. It's like the same as the Irish history in the 1800s. You know,
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, okay, well, we got here, we worked together, we grouped up, and now we have police officers and firefighters and school teachers and lawyers and politicians. And until you can get to that point and you're able to articulate a conversation like we're having right now, it's kind of like you have no political value in this country, maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's something I think to myself all the time. And it goes back to what you were talking about, how our values are really capitalistic values. Like poor people across demographics have more in common with each other, you know, than they do differences, I think. Like people who are struggling and can't get a leg up because of some of the systems that are in place to keep people poor, you know? I feel like...
yeah, I'm waiting.
Yeah, that's all I just wanted to say.
That's
like,
it? Okay.
Like, and like with the disappearing...
I thought you were going to say more there.
And just like with the disappearing middle class, right? And the disparity in wealth, right? I think more and more people are going to find, hopefully, solidarity in that discrepancy.
I want to go back to what Freddie was just saying, where, you know, the measure of success is how much money you can accrue, right, to set yourself. And I like that concept of like, you know, how can we go catch that sunset? And like, what is important? Why are we in this rat race, like, of success? You know, like you and I, Sawtooth, have this conversation all the time. Like, oh, we don't have a bigger house, or, oh, we don't have a fancy car, or whatever. And I'm like, these are, you know, the decisions that we made and the values that we are holding. You know, we have enough. Like, we don't need more. And I'm not going to drive myself personally crazy to make more. For what purpose? I'd rather spend time with my kids, or, you know.
What about me?
You know what I mean? You, of course, too, but like going on vacation or whatever.
By default.
Right. Yeah, you're just included as part of the kids.
All right.
Because you're one of the kids.
It's like when you talk about the remote control, the batteries are there, you just assume they're there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But,
No.
you know, like, I love that, you know, like, why should how much money I have in the bank be the measure upon which people see me as a success?
But they will judge you.
They will judge me, but I don't give a fuck.
Well, what happened, though, is before you would be able to survive off of a lot less than what you can survive off of today.
Right.
So you were able to kind of say, you know what, I'll do the minimum and I'll live a great life, because life is not about, you know, this and that. But then all of a sudden your rent is 4 times what it used to be.
True.
So you can't spend as much time on the beach. You can't, you know, spend as much time, you know, doing what you want to do. You spend more time doing what you have to do.
Right.
And, you know, that's kind of what sucks about the rat race. You know, it's you're always chasing, trying to get ahead. And then you have one rainy day and it knocks down all that time of progress, and you got to start over. And then mentally you're never doing enough. And then you're competing with all these images and you know, kind of values that they teach you and say, this is what it's supposed to look like. And you're measuring yourself against the supposed to. And a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. Going
back to the social media conversation, you know, those people who put out this perfect life and, oh, you should strive. There's a lot of like, I don't know if you know anything about like mommy bloggers, this like unrealistic expectations of put upon women to, have a family and look beautiful when they step outside the house and,
Right.
Yeah.
And have a job and do this and do that.
Yeah. It's not realistic.
Right.
I think it leads to depression, anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and just a lot of pressure. And I think it sucks the joy out of life sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Freddie, how do you balance the rat race, right? Having enough versus what you want to accomplish professionally, but also being able to do that stuff like go on vacation. Like I saw on your Instagram a while back, you were on the plane, with your mom. And,
Right.
So you got to go somewhere with her.
So this is how I balance it out. I've been in both worlds, right? I've been to the point that I'm making tons of money and it just doesn't end and everything is great and life is whatever you want. And then I've been to the point that I'm just like, ooh, I'm hungry and have no idea how I'm going to eat, So, I'm a father of 3. And I've been at the point that, I legitimately would have to sit there and think, how am I going to provide a meal for these kids when I've done nothing but give of myself and not gain financial return on a lot of things. And, the real estate market crashed at one point. I've been doing this 20 years now. So, I've been through the ups and downs. I got to the point that, I was really trying to live that rat race. I had the suits on, the ties on all the time. I got more dressed up when I didn't have $1 in my pocket than when I did have $1 in my pocket, So I think it just got to the point that you just say, you know what, take everything. I can start from scratch. I can figure it out. I can go, wash dishes for a meal. Just starting back to basics to say, you know what, I don't need to be here. I'm okay with just this and just getting back to the basics of being appreciative of like having a meal in front of you. Then all of a sudden you have a meal in front of you for the month. Then you have a meal for everyone around you. And then all of a sudden they're creating more meals for people around them and just focusing on the basics again, instead of trying to put that pressure of some image that, you want to live up to or some type of unrealistic financial goal that, you're willing to give up all your joy and your sanity for. It's not worth it to me, honestly, because what I've learned is that I can travel to Latin America and $50 is going to give me a good probably 3 days worth of decent meals. And, I don't really need as much as I think I do. And, that's helped me a lot just to understand what you can do with very little,
Yeah. That's good advice. I like that.
But I will say there's a balance. When I'm doing good, I do treat myself sometimes. So, but if I'm not doing good, I won't treat myself.
Yeah.
I think that's the balance of it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've been conditioned to live in constant fear. You know this.
Yes, you have.
I have no reason to believe it, but I'm always like fearful, like, oh, I'm going to lose my job and then that's going to set off a domino effect.
Right.
I'm going to
And what
lose
do I always
everything.
say to
What
you?
do you say?
You tell me. What do I tell you?
It's going to be
You're
all
going to
right.
jump in the
It's gonna
RV
be all
and
right.
travel the world.
Yeah, who
Yeah.
cares?
I'm going to put on
Well,
my...
find something else.
That's right. You do say that.
All the time.
Right.
I think I got to listen to you more.
Oh, hey. I love that talking to Freddie has convinced you of this fact.
It's inspiring them.
Yes. Now,
I want to know more about the real estate.
yeah, I do too.
Okay.
Tell us about it. Homes
All right,
Logic.
so Homes Logic Real Estate, founded now 3.5, 4 years ago. It was basically founded on the concept that we needed more real estate agent-friendly agencies, which meant you join some of these agencies and the fees are ridiculous for you to try to make some money. You got to get in and pay this, pay that. You got to walk, talk, act like. it just gets back to providing real customer service to the people and educating the people and not allowing them to make uneducated decisions and protecting them from everything else and not really worrying about the check. You know, our philosophy is the more people you help, the more money you make. Versus we don't have sales goals and quotas and, you know, this, and that's like, well, how many people can you help? You know, what's, you know, and every single individual, we take them on a case by case basis. This is how we can help them. This is the best plan. These are the best people to bring in on it. And you know, that's our approach in general. We just help a lot of people, don't focus on the checks. But I got into real estate. I had gotten laid off of corporate America when I was like 20. I was one of the youngest business analysts for General Electric. And at the time they were the largest company in the world. So I had gone through like their management trainings and I was leading maybe 35, 40 people. And then I was a business analyst, had a few of the presidents reporting to me. So I kind of got thrown into that really fast. And, you know, I'm an improviser and I learned quick. So I was able to just be quick on my feet and just keep advancing. But when I got let go, I had to think, you know, now money, and that threw me into real estate. So, you know, I've never looked back. It's been 20 years now. So
What's satisfying about the real estate work that you do?
The satisfying pieces are when someone looks at me and they say, you know, I never thought I would get through this process and you made it so easy and so simple. I never felt like I didn't have full control of the outcome of, you know, the process, et cetera. You know, I think that's big because I think a lot of people, you know, they want to keep moving and they say, hey, just trust me on the process. Don't worry, I won't lead you astray. Where me, you know, we're going to sit down and explain the process and say, do you feel like you're being led astray? Is there anything that you don't understand? Is, you know, where are we here? And giving them clear choices on every step of the way and saying these are your options right now. A lot of times, you know, and I'm not going to badmouth anybody because I think, you know, everybody ultimately tries to do their best, but sometimes, you know, options that would not benefit a real estate professional might not be presented because, you know, if you worked with someone 6 months, now all of a sudden they're going to back out. You don't get paid for your services for that time. So, you know, sometimes, you know, maybe not everything is disclosed and, you know, our whole business is based on ethics. So,
yeah, that must be really scary if that happens. You've spent all of that time working with somebody and then do they ever just like ghost you?
Yeah, of course.
Oh God.
Of course. You know, everybody knows a real estate agent. I'm sure you can go through any of your social media and point out 15 in the next. I could probably give you a minute and a half. You probably come back with at least 15. Yeah. You know, so I mean, I'm fortunate that I have a long history of doing real estate. So people just, you know, they gravitate towards me because of that. But it's part of the business. You can't be mad if someone's life circumstance changes and they can't close on the property, or, you know, something's wrong with the property, or if some financing falls through. It's part of the process. You know, You're not going to get everyone across the finish line, but, you know, the law of averages. This one, you might have wasted your time, but then you might have 3 transactions that are smooth and things go great. So
is it hard to find agents who align with your like ethical values? Thank you, Stomping Jen.
It has not been. Most of the agents that work with us right now, there's 9 of us total. They all share the same values and beliefs, and you know, they've been there from the beginning pretty much. And we haven't really been recruiting besides that, because we believe that everyone on our team has to be kind of overwhelmed before we start bringing a bunch of other people on and training them to the way we do business. But it is, if you try to bring a check chaser, you know, we'll call them check chasers, a check chasing agent to a system that focuses on the quality of the customer service and them being involved a lot more in the process. you're not going to be able to, that's not a fit for everyone, and not to say that that any other way is wrong. Everyone has their own style and way of approaching the business, but no, it doesn't, it wouldn't work for everyone. You have to be committed to, our audit process starts from day one, whereas we're making sure that you're doing everything possible for your client, et cetera. And, we're involved from the beginning to make sure that happens. So it wouldn't work for everyone, but.
Yeah. You mentioned that you have lived in and around Springfield, Massachusetts, which is a large city in Western Massachusetts out here for most of your life. Do you do most of your real estate work in and around Springfield?
Yeah. My focus has always been Western Massachusetts. As of a couple of years ago, we moved into Northern Connecticut as well. So Western Mass, which is like the greater Springfield area. Yeah. We'll go as far as we touch, maybe East Hampton, Northampton, Connecticut. In Connecticut, we'll go like Hartford, Enfield, Windsor, maybe as far as New Haven. Sometimes we don't go that far, but just this whole Northern Connecticut, Western Massachusetts, I think it's called the Knowledge Quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty
91,
much.
Yeah.
Right. That's pretty much our focus. Yeah. Right around 91.
New Haven's pretty far down there.
That's very far.
It is. But if the deal is right, we're going down there. Yeah.
What's,
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, please.
What is the difference between like commercial and residential real estate?
Oh, great question. Two different worlds. So I've been doing commercial real estate separately. So commercial real estate is a completely different language. It's I don't want to say it's real estate, but it's a lot more technical. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more involved with it. You get into environmentals, you get into build outs, you get into, it's just a whole different language. I'll give you an example. So a residential agent will come in and sell one of the units in the mobile home park. Mm-hmm. A commercial agent will come in and sell the mobile home park.
Right.
Yeah. So I've done both,
Okay.
Yeah.
Is one more, or I don't even know if this is the right way to ask the question, but I'm going to ask it because it came into my head misformed. Is one more or less like rewarding than the other? Like I would imagine when you're putting somebody in a home, right? They're going to live there. That might represent a lifelong dream for them to be a first-time homeowner or something. But then I was thinking to myself, okay, but on the commercial side, this might be the start of somebody's business, like also a lifelong dream. Mm-hmm. Why am I always trying to make things better, one better than the other?
I don't know.
That's what I tried to do.
Completely different.
Do you have any thoughts on that? Are they just different experiences?
It's completely different experiences. I will say, commercial world has no emotion, where the residential world, there's tons of emotion. It's where your dog is going. It's where your children are being raised. It's where you and your family are going to live. It's your sanctuary as well as an investment. Whereas in commercial, it's mostly an investment. It's mostly a financial factor. Sometimes businesses are starting a new venture and stuff like that. But in the commercial world, you're not worried about the soft emotions that come with it. You're more about, projections, realistic cost of this, and making sure that terms and conditions of contracts are thoroughly thought out and that they're protected legally from being sued in the future, and making sure they get what they're supposed to get. Where residential, I hate to compare it, but I have to. It's kind of like you buy a used car or a new car. There's plumbing, electric, heating, foundation, roof, windows, floor plan, but with commercial, there's net charges. So let's say you rent the storefront. Sometimes you don't know that you have to pay for your portion of the common area maintenance, which means the grounds, which means landscaping, which means snow removal, taxes. You have to pay your portion of the taxes sometimes. How things renew, if you're able to lease to a friend of yours who wants to rent the booth off of you, or et cetera, et cetera. There's just so many nuances to commercial real estate that if you miss something, then you can set your client up for a trap.
Jesus, there's so much to know. I don't think I could do this.
Well, that's why you're not a real estate broker.
Right.
You never will be.
How do you know? Unless that's what you want to be.
Yeah, I know him. He's not interested.
Yeah.
What other community projects? You said something about boards that you're on and stuff.
I do serve as a treasurer as one of our local charter schools. I've served as vice president to one of our community organizations. I get involved. We've done. We have a cultural parade called the Puerto Rican Parade. It's one of the largest in New England. I've been involved in that in the past and a high supporter of it now. I've worked with the casino when they came in to try to make sure there were minorities, women, vets, and residents that were hired there for construction. And you know what? Just supporting other people's causes, when they might need, a helping hand. And, we've given out tons of charity, turkeys, the basics, just try to do my little part. I'm a little drop of a whole ocean of people who really give back to the community and really try to help our communities out,
Yeah.
Do you see any changes in Springfield since you were 3 months and moved here?
I do. I do think there needs to be a lot more changes. I think we're moving in that direction. I'm just looking forward to future candidates to be able to take on leadership that might have a different approach to running a municipality, let's say, in general,
Yep.
Go ahead, Stump.
I was just going to say, there's some cool energy that's been bubbling up recently.
I tell people this all the time, is that I really love and appreciate Springfield. I had never really been down there and spent time in the city until our leadership program.
Yes.
Right. And it was such an eye-opener for me. Like, it's such a great resource. There's so many cool things there to do. Recently on the podcast, we had a woman there who runs a program called
Springfield.
Yeah, Fresh Paint Springfield, which is like a mural project that's happening in Springfield. But
yeah, it's amazing. Yes, I know which one it is. Yep.
Yeah, but I tell people all the time, like, go down there and like experience the city, because there's so much to do there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to go down there.
We are? When?
When our kids are gone.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, is this?
Where do you guys live now?
Belchertown.
We did say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are right here. You're right there.
Oh yeah. No, we're super close to Springfield.
We can get there in
20 minutes.
15, 20 minutes, which
20
we love.
minutes to downtown.
Yeah, which we love.
Right.
Except they're those darn kids.
I will say this. I will say that, because, I sit on the city's tax committee, and we always have this discussion every year on how businesses versus residents should share the tax burden, and weighing the scales of that. But I will say that MGM came in and invested $1 billion into one site, and that has triggered more businesses to come in. And I believe that Springfield has always had a perception of safety issue, where those such as, people from Belchertown or, some of the surrounding areas, even though they say, oh, wow, that'd be great to go there, but I think I'll pass and I'll go to this side of things. I think that has changed a lot. I really do. I believe that actually visually you see it where now, downtown Springfield, you see people walking their dogs at night. Let's say young ladies, walking their dogs at night, where it's not something that you used to see. I would say the mayor and Springfield police, they've done, they've tried many different things to kind of curve that, including involving different community organizations and coming together and trying to understand the perception of safety and what it'll take. So like the city of Springfield's invested in, we call them cop in the box.
Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a police officer in there, monitoring the area. And I think overall, we're just not stuck in the 90s anymore. I feel like we were all stuck in the 90s for a while, but I think Springfield has really come a long way. People call now and ask, where are your luxury apartments? And I kind of, right. And I say, we're not there yet. We're getting there, but it's good to really hear people from a different tax bracket, let's say, are willing to come in and live in Springfield, which is something that, before they weren't willing to do. You know?
Do you see all positives or, I know that the term gentrification gets thrown around a lot. So like, where the luxury apartments get built and then the people who actually live there can't then afford to live there any longer.
Right. But thanks to discriminatory laws, you can't discriminate on someone due to their financial status. So what happens is, let's say an apartment goes from $1,000 to $1,800 a month all of a sudden, right? If someone has a Section 8 voucher, a subsidy, some type of subsidy, that subsidy has to pay up to market rent. So it's just a larger subsidy. Now, the people who do get pushed out is when they have these guidelines that say, well, the tenant has to pay this portion of the rent. Let's say it's, whatever percentage of the rent that is stated that they have to pay. If they can't afford their portion of the rent, then they have to go. And, that's kind of what happens. Gentrification, I live on both sides of that. Because I help commercial developers come in and add value to properties and then I also help those who come from humble beginnings who might not have the resources to get to that level. I try to help them understand how they can get into programs where there's grants. There's different, types of housing, let's say 203K rehab loans, where they can buy a house and keep the equity if they fix it themselves and they manage the project. It's a balance of both. So while I'm helping this guy over here spend his multi-millions in buying this whole area, I'm helping this other person over here get into a property with $3,000 total from beginning to end. So, I can't stop the gentrification process, and it's Springfield. When the casino was coming in, I believe that they stated there was 11,000 job openings. So that kind of started moving people here, and we have a lot of beautiful, great, creative people in Springfield who have a lot of self-expression, and that's starting to be seen in the entrepreneurial world where. Generation X right now is starting to open their businesses, and then Generation Y is like, hey, we're right behind you. And, and then we have also people who come from these demographics and these settings in the political world. And we have people from our community. I'm going to give an example. I'm going to say Adam Gomez, who's the first Puerto Rican senator in Massachusetts. I mean, he's walking in with a suit and some Jordans, you know what I mean? And it's, and the words that come out of politicians that are homegrown from Springfield, they maintain that. They're still the Springfield resident, and that humble, we just like some direction, we're here students, etc. That approach to politics, I think it's done a lot for our community.
Yeah. Who is the fashion designer from Springfield? Is it Devin Davon? And he he's building a brand. He's out of the city, and what I like about this character is he makes shoes for men with small feet. Stomping Jen.
Wow.
I have very small feet.
Now because you butchered his name, I don't remember it.
We'll post it in the show notes.
Yeah.
I have never heard.
Oh, you haven't heard
shoes for men with small feet.
Yeah.
Now I have to
I think that's amazing.
It's a problem.
No, yeah.
And so but
and they're fashionable. They're awesome.
Why am I blanking? Who is the woman who runs the hub? Tiana Ray Burnett. Another entrepreneur in Springfield. Opened up this kind of like social center in downtown Springfield called the Hub. Anyways,
and they're partnering with all these awesome restaurants. But they're all like doing some great stuff down there.
We had her on the podcast when she had a different venture going, and she had posted about this fashion designer from Springfield. That's how I think Stomping Jen found out about it. Got me this present. It was like some beard butter and body butter and no small shoes though, but maybe that'll be next year. That kind of
Devin Davon.
That's what I said.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Anyways, so if you know anyone with small feet,
can't find it,
send him his way. So, it's. I mean, and that must be exciting to play a role in the development of an area. You're kind of helping lay the foundation for what will come.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working with the community for 20 years, I would say. But honestly, I mean, I don't really take any credit for helping lay the foundation of that, because if you saw it from my point of view, there are so many people in Springfield that bring positivity and ideas and help other people really accomplish their goals and kind of like mentor people, even if it's indirectly. And then there's a lot of those that are just the examples who, they move forward on their plans, and then other people see them and say, oh, that's inspirational. I can do that too.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I love that.
All right. As we're winding down, Freddie, I just wanted to ask you if you had anything that you wanted to make sure we touched on that we didn't get to, and keep in mind, we can have you back in the future too.
Yeah. I think ultimately, we as and I'm assuming you're both Generation Xers, right?
Oh yeah, I am.
What are we?
74. You're Gen X, 78.
I'm in that little micro.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I'm same year.
Yeah.
So I believe that Gen X has to take leadership of selflessness and kind of forget about our role in history and make sure that it transitions correctly, so that I feel like the generation before us held on to leadership and power way too long.
Oh my God, so much.
Yeah,
still
they didn't. I mean, I'm middle aged. If I'm gonna live to 85, I'm middle aged, right?
Right.
So, but they want me to wait till I'm like 70 to say I'm middle aged. I'm like, no, that's not middle age. And the perception of, they say this young guy. I'm like, well, my daughter's in college,
Yeah.
So they're like, this young guy. And I'm like, I'm not that young. And I feel like Gen X, I think we have a lot of responsibility to make sure that the next generation kind of like feels confident in taking the leadership roles of articulating the thoughts of like the collective, let's say.
Why won't they let go?
And get them ready so they can step up earlier, right?
Why won't they let go? I really, I struggle with this all the time.
Power and money.
Identity. I think it's part of their identity.
That is true. That is true.
What happens?
That is very true. You've hit the nail on the head there, I think.
Yeah. All right. We're going to ask you two fun questions, Freddie. We're going to let you off the hook. The high pressure questions are over. Thank you.
High pressure.
All right. So we've heard you've got your hands in a lot of pots. This real estate, community projects, your awesome Instagram page.
Right.
What do you do for fun? How do how do you reward yourself? What do you like to do to just relax and get back to Freddy?
I like putting my phone on airplane mode.
Nice.
Yeah. I like shutting my phone off. I feel like in 2021, that's a reward. I think that's kind of a luxury for a salesperson in 2021 to be able to just shut off his phone. I'm not able to do it as much, but I make music. I've been in music forever. I've been making music since I was 6. I'm into hip hop, rap, etc. I'm into making music videos. I'm into anything creative, getting into some films and stuff like that. Just, anything creative and anything physical, outdoor physical activity, anything like that, anything that's going to allow me to enjoy myself while releasing some stress, let's say. But I do like to travel. And I'm not really a planner. So if Spirit sends me an email and it says fly, within the next 10 days for like $12,
yeah,
I'm gone.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I admire that kind of spontaneity.
Yeah, Sawtooth is not spontaneous.
No.
In any regard.
No, somebody texts me and says, "Hey, can you come over tonight for a hangout?"
No.
Stopping Jen and I have to have a meeting about it.
No. Yeah. Yeah. We have this one friend who like consistently will be like at like midday, "Oh, you want to come over tonight?" And like, no, you have to like give us a week.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't work.
It does not work.
I love and admire that spontaneity. All right, our last question, and you can interpret this any way you want to.
Sure.
All right. What have you experienced in life that you can't explain? What's a mystery to you?
All right. I don't know if you guys are ready.
I'm ready. Let me put on the spooky music. Here we go.
He seems prepared for
With
this.
some spooky music.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's perfect.
Okay.
All right. So the commencement of the golden ages. I'm into this. So I believe the Mayan prophecies and the end of an era took place in 2020. And I believe that now I'm a little bit of a spiritual guy.
Okay.
And I believe that now I think the dark ages are over and we're able to tap into more positive energy that kind of was locked out to us for a while in the dark ages, which is every like 26,000 years, I think it is, that it changes over. So mathematically, they first thought it was 2012. And then when they took in the calendars and how it takes days away, et cetera, mathematically, they said it was 2020. So which meant we were going from the dark ages to the golden ages. And I feel, and there are many of those that agree with me, and there are many of those who don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But I believe that we are in the golden ages and that we're able to tap into the law of attraction a little more, the laws of the universe, being able to control our energy, so that we can attract positivity and, things like that.
Yeah.
It's not really something people expect to hear from me. But I really do subscribe to that. And a big basis of it is like the power of now. I don't know if you know Eckhart Tolle and how it works, but it's just basically maintaining presence and not being pulled in by anything really, and always just maintaining your presence, kind of like riding a surfboard instead of worrying how to control the waves, more like mastering a surfboard,
yeah.
Kind of taking that approach to life. I think that helps a lot.
I love that. I'm going to turn that
abrupt.
I'm going to turn that bit into an MP3, put it in my pocket, and I'm going to play it. I like that.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm giving that a
awesome.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
And I have to say that I think that is a uniquely positive interpretation of that question, and I love it. Don't you think?
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
I love that everybody has a different take on it.
That's why I love asking that question.
It's a great question.
And I like you didn't get mad at us. Some people get mad at us.
Nobody gets mad at us.
Oh, we've had a few.
No.
All right.
They get bothered.
Yeah, bothered.
All right. Freddy Lopez, also known as Freddy Logic.
Right.
What's the logic? We never talked about the logic.
I'll give you the logic piece. So
Real quick.
It's quick. In 10th grade, I won in technical math. I won most logical person. I was on the football team, and they thought they were ridiculing me by calling me Freddy Logic. So I just owned it, and I've used it. Logic Real Estate, Homes Logic Real Estate, Logic Realty, Logic Entertainment, everything I've done, I kind of like used it as a little
turned it around.
Gimmick. Yeah.
I love that. And Stomping Jen, I love you for asking that question.
Why?
Because I didn't think to ask it. You are the asker of great questions.
Are you telling me that I'm winning this podcast?
You are winning the podcast. You and Freddie are winning the podcast. And I love it.
Team.
I love it.
Thank you, Freddie.
Freddie, thank you for talking to us. I really appreciated you coming on and just chatting with us. I learned a lot, and I loved connecting with you. So
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks. We're going to go around. Everyone's going to say the customary sign off. What is it, Stomping Jen? What do we say here?
Say share with a friend and blah, 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 and subscribe and download. Yeah. And we love you, and bye now. All that Stomping Jen said. And Freddie, you want to give us a bye now?
Just, spread love, but keep peace. Like internal to yourself. Make sure you don't let the gooey stuff of the world pull you into it.
I love that. So I'm just going to say to you all now, bye now.
This world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate. Those who have freedom will understand also its heavy responsibility. That all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, and that the sources, scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made disappear from the earth. And that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed by the binding force of mutual respect and love. I shall never cease to do what little I can to help the world advance along that road.